Hare Krishna, today we'll talk about the city of nine gates. By end of this talk, you will understand what these nine gates are. So, there is something called epistemology, the theory of knowledge, especially its methods, validity, and scope. And epistemology is also what distinguishes justified belief from general opinion. So, there are four tools. One is called myth or superstition, and it even exists in modern cultures, right? Even there is child marriage in America. I was reading an article that in the state of Florida, there is no minimum age. So 11 years, 13 years girls are also getting married in the state of Florida, even today, right? So myth and superstition exist even in modern culture. And logic and reason can produce egregiously, means pretty, flagrant or pretty obvious, valid arguments, both for and existence and against the existence of God. So people will logically argue for existence of God. People will logically argue against the existence of God. Then the third tool is empiricism. So the challenge of repeatability remains between the objective and subjective modes of measurements in experiments. So in the empiricism means everything is empirical, mathematical. But even then, repeatability. Sometimes you can repeat an experiment. Sometimes you are unable to repeat an experiment. And then there is transcendence. So for example, the noetic writings of philosopher Plato, right? So he was talking about transcendence from a Western perspective. And usually that's very subjective, generally subjective. So here are some instructions for self-realization. We have to realize ourselves, and these classes and all the tools like chanting, going to temples, fasting on important days, living on a farm, all these are basically techniques for self-realization. So if you look at any picture like this, you will see them all in rural settings. You don't see them near palaces. You don't see near big buildings, skyscrapers like that. Why? Because spirituality is essentially rural. It is not urban, right? So Srila Prabhupada talked about the path of hearing. When you hear, there is transformation of heart. Hopefully you will also have transformation of heart after some time. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur also talks about what exactly is self-realization. He's considered the modern father of devotion. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the modern times, he's the one who reinstated all this lost knowledge. So here is Lord Shiva. So Shiva comes out of water, and as Prachetas are playing next to a body of water like a lake. And then he gives this knowledge. So Lord Shiva recites this prayer: O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. For you are the Supreme Living Being, the Supreme Soul, and thus you are worshipable by all. So in this way, he is glorifying the Lord. And he says, you are the all-pervading Lord Vasudeva, who expands himself as Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Anuruddha. You are the inclination, disinclination, and the resultant activities. And you are the topmost of all those who bestow benedictions. Bestow means give, benediction means blessing. So he is the one, the Supreme Lord, Narayana or Krishna, are the one who give, bestow benedictions. Then he says, my dear Lord, I wish to see you in your original form, which is very dear to devotees, for only by visualizing that form can all demands of the senses be perfectly satisfied. The Lord's complexion resembles a dark cloud during monsoon season. Just like in the Brahma Samhita, Barhavatam Samasitambuddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So in this way, he is basically glorifying the Lord. And then he says, the Lord's shoulders are broad like a lion, and upon his chest hangs the Kaustubha mani. Kasturi tilakam lalata palake vakshastale Kaustubham. In that song, you see the Kaustubham is on the Vakshasthala, means middle of the chest. So the glittering curls of golden hair upon the Lord's chest called Srivastha excel the beauty of the golden streaks that are found on the black stone. So in this way, Lord Shiva is glorifying Lord Krishna, not even Vishnu, Krishna, right? And then
Which, sorry, Prabhuji, where is this scripture? Is this part of
Srimad
Bhagavatam like that, or?
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam is 18 volumes. You'll spend 40 years reading it. So you have to start at some point. I'm giving you a simple update. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
In this way, Lord Shiva is instructing the Prachetas. My dear princess, you should chant this prayer while fixing your mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Being situated within your heart, the Lord will very soon be pleased with you if you faithfully follow this process. So Shiva is giving various instructions. Meanwhile,
To who, Prabhuji?
huh?
You said princess, right? So to who?
Prachetas. Prachetas are the sons of Prachena Barhi, Sat. So there's a long story. I'm giving you a very
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll be here for another 3 hours. So meanwhile, their father, Prachina Barisat, was performing various kinds of fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means something that bears fruit. So the great sage Narada Muni became compassionate upon Prachina Barisat, and he is giving instructions about spiritual life, right? So Narada Muni is the instructor for many people. To Dhruva, to Prahlada, to many people who have lost their way in the scriptures. Narada Muni comes as the central figure who is giving this knowledge. So what is he saying? My dear king, what do you hope to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? So this knowledge is given in the ancient times. So you have Gandhari, which is the Gandhar Desh, from where Gandhari comes. Then you have Madra, Kaikeya, Bahika, Uttarakuru, Kuru, Matsya, Kunti, Panchala, and then Chedi, Safala, Koshala, Videha, Pundra, Vanga, Vidarbha, and Kalinga. And below Kalinga is Andhra, like that. So this is the Vedic period when this knowledge is given out. So here is Narada Muni. He meets Prachina Barisat, and he is basically giving this knowledge. My dear king, what do you hope to achieve by performing these fruitive activities? Fruit means something, a result of some activity. So fruitive activity means we are performing that to get some fruit. So the chief aim is to get rid of all miseries and enjoy perfect happiness. But this cannot be attained by fruitive activities. So we are all doing fruitive activities, working, making money, but we are never happy. We can never be happy because we are always wanting some fruit, right? So the king is replying now, oh great soul Narada, because my intelligence is entangled in fruitive activities, I do not know what is the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, kindly instruct me in pure knowledge so that I can get out of the entanglement of household life, wherein one takes wealth and women to be of prime importance, right? So he's actually accepting that fact that in household life, wealth and women means like the whole thing that come with the house, right? You have, a man has a wife has a husband, kids come, then parents and grandparents and grandkids, and you'll see that in the story that Narada Muni recites now. So Narada Muni is saying, by utilizing my mystic power, I'll show you the animals that you have mercilessly killed in the sacrificial arena, right? They are awaiting your death so that they can gain revenge by piercing your body with their iron horns, right? Now, in order to instruct you, I will relate a very old history about King Puranjana, right? So he is giving the story. Puranjana means one who enjoys within the Pura of the body. So once there lived a king of Panchala named Puranjana, who was very famous. He traveled all over the world and he didn't like it anywhere. So once wandering, he came to a place called Bharatavarsha, which is southern side of Himalayas. There he saw a city having 9 gates containing all auspicious facilities. Surrounding walls of the city are like the skin of the body. Parks are like the hair of the body. Within the towers are the head and the nose. Canals are the wrinkles and depressions on the body. And houses are the 3 modes of material nature: Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. And within the houses, the floors were made out of sapphire, crystal. So in this way, the city resembled Bhogavati, the capital of Nagas. Naga's city is considered to be pretty beautiful, so he was trying to relate it to Bhogavati. And there are many beings, but two primary beings, Atma and Paramatma, reside in this city. On the outskirts of the city, there was a nice lake encircled by many beautiful trees and creepers. Beautiful bees are singing, and there was very, very nice atmosphere, the serene atmosphere. And the serene atmosphere is compared to the peaceful family life, and animals represent the children. So normally we think family life is very peaceful. Why? Above all, other sounds could be heard as cooing of cuckoos. So even the turmoil created by children appear to be like cooing of cuckoos. So kids are yelling and screaming, but we think, it is so sweet. So we are getting accustomed to this nice family life. Although this is not our real goal in life. So while wandering here and there in that garden, King Puranjana suddenly saw a very beautiful woman without any particular engagement. She was accompanied by 10 servants. These are 5 knowledge acquiring senses, Jnanendriyas, and 5 working senses, Karmendriyas. And each one of these 10 servants were followed by hundreds of wives. They are desires of the senses. Each of the sense has unlimited desires. Especially the eye has unlimited desires. It wants to see so many things, movies and this and that, right? So the beautiful young woman was protected on all sides by 5 hooded snake. So let's move on. Here is that beautiful woman, Puranjani, walking, and she had a complete entourage. So this is Narada here. He's reciting the story. So I didn't prepare this. One of the artists prepared this beautiful thing. So Narada is reciting this story. So Puranjani is walking, protected by this 5 hooded snake. This is from a comic book, City of Nine Gates, tale from Bhagavad Purana. So this is a beautiful girl, Puranjani, walking and protected by this 5 hooded snakes. So she appeared to be anxious to find a suitable husband, right? The woman represents intelligence, which cannot act without consciousness. The husband, she is described as very young, indicating that intelligence must be very fresh. So she is now walking. So the hero Puranjana, what does he do? He gets attracted to this girl. And now he wants to marry her. So he says, my dear beautiful girl, you appear to be exactly like goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, the goddess of learning, Saraswati, or Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. And yet, on the other hand, you seem to be loitering in this forest as if in search of a husband. You appear to be the goddess of fortune, but because I do not see a lotus flower in your hand, I wonder where you have thrown it. So he's like totally head over heels, right? He's comparing her to Lakshmi Devi. And Lakshmi Devi typically has lotus flower in her hand. So you are like Lakshmi Devi, but where is your lotus? He's like totally crazy after her right now. Then again, it appears you must be a woman of this planet and not of any of these above mentioned goddesses. For your feet are seen to touch the ground. See, our feet touch the ground. Devata's feet don't touch the ground. Because they are not even from this planet, right? They come from somewhere else and they don't touch the ground for whatever reason. Maybe because it's not very pious here. It could be many reasons. So then he's praising himself. You know that I'm very powerful and heroic king and I possess all kinds of opulence. Means I have a lot of wealth. So therefore, by your glances, you're greatly excited my mind. It is said that women can destroy a man very quickly just by glances, right? Shakespeare says this in Cleopatra, his novel, and the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam talk about this, especially the Bhagavatam, many, many times. So what happens? It agitates the Cupid within the man. So she's saying, your smile, which is full of shyness, but at the same time very lusty, has agitated the Cupid within me. Please be merciful and raise your smiling face so that you can see me. So he's pleading with her to have eye contact. Then Puranjana spoke in this way because he was eager to see the complete feature of Maya. So Narada Muni is saying that this is Maya and Puranjana is getting attracted. Because he was so eager to touch and enjoy the young girl, he wooed her very aggressively, and as a result, she also became attracted to him. Hmm. Having thus become captivated by the women, um, she replied, "O best of the human beings, I do not know who has begotten me, nor do I know the names of origin of my associates." So she claimed that she doesn't know who she is. "Indeed, I am so foolish that I do not even care to understand who has created this beautiful place for my residence. O great hero, it is my good fortune that you have somehow or the other come here. I know that you have great desire to satisfy your senses, so I and all of my friends will try to best gratify you in all respects." Hmm. So now it is said, how could I desire to unite with anyone other than you, especially those who are not self-centered householders, the followers of Pravriti Marga, means the path of increasing attachment. So there are two margas described in Srimad Bhagavatam. One is Pravriti Marga, increasing attachment. Second is Nivriti Marga, decreasing attachment. And in America, we are always in Pravriti Marga. Earn more, acquire more, attach more. And Nivriti Marga was practiced by the ancient sages, whether it is in Rome, whether it is in China, whether it is in ancient India, especially in ancient India. Hmm. So, householders can attain success in terms of dharma, artha, kama, which culminates in moksha or heavenly elevation. The girl is saying, she's giving philosophy to the king, but the poor fellow is like totally lost. He wants to enjoy her, right? He's saying householders can attain success in terms of dharma, artha, kama, culminating in moksha or heavenly elevation. Indeed, the poor brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, as well as the lower forms of life, can hardly imagine the happiness that is enjoyed in the household life centered around sex. Household life means centered around sex, right? Of course, today people are having sex even without household life. So that is even worse than that. That is more like animals. Because cats and dogs don't need a home, right? They will have sex on the streets. So it is animalistic civilization that we are living in right now. But still, there are some people who follow the marriage process according to mantras and still follow a certain degree. Hmm. Thereafter, King Puranjana and the woman, supporting one another with their mutual understanding, entered the city and continued to enjoy life for 100 years. Right? So, what did they do? They entered the city. The city is coming later. Um, so, they started enjoying. So, there were different kinds of gates of this city. The eastern side is called Khadyota, glowworm, the weaker left eye, and Avirmukhi, torchlight or the stronger right eye. Normally, it is said that our right eye is stronger than the left eye, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, and their specific names. And the king used to go to the city of Vibrajita. Vibrajita means clear vision or form, accompanied by a friend named Viman, sun. So, to see a clear form, you need the help of sun. And there are other two gates. Remember, we are talking about city of 9 gates. So there are other two gates named Nalini and Nalini. The king used to go to the city of Saurabha, Aroma. Aroma means like what you smell. That's called a city of Saurabha, your nostrils. Accompanied by a friend named Avaduta. That is air. So you cannot feel the aroma until there is air, Avaduta. And through the fifth gate on the eastern side, named Mukhya, the mouth, which was the chief gate. The king used to visit two places named Bahudana, varieties of food, and Apana, speech, accompanied by two friends named Rasagya, the tongue or sense of taste, and Vipana, the faculty of speech. So now you know these are the gates. Through the southern gate named Pitrihu, the right ear, which is used for karma kandya activities, right? We hear everything through the right ear, like, a seminar on how to make money, a seminar on, how to learn a programming language, a seminar on how to make money on the stock market, like that, right? So you need the ear for karma kandya activities. To visit the city named Dakshina Panchala, such as higher planets known as Pitraloka and scriptures that describe the Pravritti Marga, accompanied by friend Shrutadhara. Okay, and then there is a northern gate named Devahu, left ear, which is used to take spiritual initiation. So when we take initiation, the spiritual master gives the mantra in the left ear, not in the right ear. Right here is more for karma kandya activities. So you should know all these things. It is very, very interesting. So with this, the king goes to Uttara Panchala, higher planets, and ultimately Vaikuntha by a process known as Nivritti Marga, by giving up stuff. Pravritti Marga is using the right ear, hearing how to make more money, how to enjoy life, how to succeed in material life. Left ear for spiritual initiation, mantra recitation, to go to Uttara Panchala, go to higher planets like heavenly planets, and to Vaikuntha. And then now there is a western side, a gate called Asuri, the genitals, which are especially meant for Asuras, because Asuras like to have a lot of sex. So the king used to go to the city of Gramaka, place where sex is indulged, accompanied by his friend Durmada. Dur means bad, Mada means madness. Although Durmada, like that, if you see old movies, you'll see that dialogue come through. Another gate on the western same name, Niritti, the anus or the painful gate, through which we discharge stool. So these are the various gates. So using these, the king used to go to the place known as Vaishas, hell, along with his friend Lubdhaka, greed. So Bhagavad Gita says there are 3 gateways to hell: lust, greed, and anger. So we have to remember that. LGA, LaGuardia, the code for LaGuardia Airport. Lust, greed, and anger. These 3 are gateways to hell. Okay. So now, why did we talk about these 9 gates? Because these 9 gates are trapping the soul in the human body. That's why this body is called Navarandra Pura. Pura means city, Randra means holes, and Nava means 9, just like Navagraha. So the poor soul is stuck in these 9 walled fortress, and we are crying and crying and crying here. So in this way, Puranjana and Puranjani got married, and they are enjoying their 9 senses. And then one day, our friend Puranjana goes to forest to hunt. So Puranjana's chariot was driven by 5 swift horses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, which go on running year after year without making any progress. See, our senses, since we were in kindergarten, have been acquiring so much knowledge, but still we didn't make any progress towards the ultimate destination, which is going to liberation, right? So we are wasting year after year, acquiring more and more. Like I know one of the devotee on LinkedIn, every 3 months, he does this certification or that certification. One day I saw he got architect certification. One day, recently, he got some artificial intelligence certification from Kellogg School of Business. So he's keeping on accumulating more and more knowledge, but no progress like that. The chariot has 3 flags, 3 modes of nature. One rein, the mind, a driver, the Paramatma or intelligence. So if you open your Bhagavad Gita books by Swami Prabhupada, there is a picture of this being shown like a chariot with 5 horses. There are 5 senses. Then there is the reins to control the horses, the mind, and a driver or intelligence, Paramatma. And there is a sitting place where the passenger sits, that is the soul. And then there are 2 poles onto which the harness was fixed. These are the dualities. Dualities means plus and minus, right? Lamentation, being sad, or illusion, which are the causes of bondage, right? And then 2 explosive arrows are also there on the chariot. They are false ego of I and mine. These false ego will keep us here in the material world for a very, very long time. Srimad Bhagavatam is very strong. Once we start talking about it, it will blast us left and right. So the king goes, and then what does he do? He does hunting. He does not even tell his wife Puranjani that he went hunting. So there is one other form of hunting that is mentioned. It's called women hunting. So men go after various women. And even if the woman is married, they will still tempt that woman to do some bad stuff with them. And I've seen this. While I was doing engineering, some of my classmates were tempted by local women, and then these people would go and do all kinds of stuff with those women. So I know firsthand that these things happen. So, Kshatriyas are allowed to kill and eat the flesh, right? But they have to pay for it at some point. So, what did the king do? He killed innumerable rabbits, boar, buffalo, black deer, porcupine, and other animals. King Puranjana became very fatigued. Hmm? So, he decided to return to his palace. So, he came back to his palace, he bathed, ate a nice dinner, and rested. Huh? Thereafter, he dressed himself in nicely decorated way in ornaments and garlands, smeared sandalwood paste all over his body to smell good. And after being completely refreshed in this way, he started looking for his queen, Puranjani. So, after eating and resting, instead of being elevated by higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid so that he can engage in that sexual activity. Right? So, the king inquired from the household ladies, "My dear beautiful women, where is my wife?" So, here is his procession back to the palace, and then he takes bath, eats, and he starts looking for his wife. So again, this is one more picture of Narada Muni talking to Prachina Barishat, who is the father of the 10 Prachetas who are being concurrently instructed by Lord Shiva himself on how to get out of the fruitive activities. And here, Narada Muni is instructing the father on how to get rid of the fruitive activities. And here are various sages discussing this topic on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the queen also started decorating herself, right? So that they can get it. Actually, the queen doesn't decorate herself yet. She expresses anger. She expresses anger that the king did not give her notification before he went to the forest. So what does she do? The palace woman replied, "O master of the citizens, kindly look, your wife is lying down on bare ground, and we cannot understand why." When Puranjana saw how his queen was lying upon the ground like a mendicant, he became very bewildered in mind. He neglected his good intelligence. Being very aggrieved, he tried to pacify her with pleasing words. Surprisingly, she did not display any symptoms of anger, which is natural characteristic of a woman in love when she is neglected. If women love somebody and if that person neglects her, she'll be very dejected. Being very expert in flattery, however, King Puranjana remained undaunted and continued to pacify his wife step by step. First of all, he touched her feet. So King touched his wife's feet, and then he embraced her warmly. Finally, after seating her upon his lap, he said, "My dear beautiful wife, when a master accepts a servant but does not punish him for his offenses, that servant must be considered as most unfortunate. When chastised by his master, the servant too should take it as his great mercy." So there is a picture here. He's pleading with his wife. So the king is pleading with his wife. "If someone has offended you, then I'm prepared to punish him, provided he is not a Brahmana or Vaishnava." So he's saying if somebody offended you, but if he's a Brahmana or Vaishnava, I cannot punish because he's a superior to me. "My dear wife, I've never seen your face without tilak or cosmetics, nor have I seen you so morose and lusterless." And then he's very open with her. "Now, please consider me to be your most intimate subordinate and become pleased with me. I am very much bereaved, and due to being pierced by Cupid's arrows, I feel very lusty. Where is the beautiful woman who would give up her lusty husband and refuse to unite with him?" So he is asking her to um, give up her anger and come and unite with him. So then the queen decorates herself, right? After thus bewildering her husband and bringing him under control, the queen bathed, dressed herself very nicely, ate her meal, and returned to him. Upon seeing her beautifully decorated face, King Puranjana very respectfully welcomed his queen, and she fondly embraced him. Thereafter, in a secluded place, again, this is, Srimad Bhagavatam. I am not making this language up. The queen gave King Puranjana full satisfaction by enjoying sex life with him to his heart's content. Being captivated by his beautiful wife, Puranjana lost all good sense, and thus he forgot how days and nights were passing in such a way that his duration of life was being reduced without profit. So this is what happens to all of us grihasthas. We engage in sexual life by forgetting what is our real goal in life. We think that this is our real goal in life. So profit here means spiritual profit. However, if in household life one simply becomes attracted by sex, then he sinks down deeper into material life. Being increasingly overwhelmed by illusion, Puranjana remained always lying down with his head in the pillow of his wife's arms. He didn't need a pillow. The wife would make his arms like a pillow and he would enjoy his head in his wife's arms. Due to considering a woman to be his very life and soul, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization. So he forgot who he was. He is a soul, but he thought he worked on a bodily platform. His heart filled with lust, King Puranjana begot 1100 sons and 110 daughters. Back then people lived very long. You cannot have 1100 sons in 70 years. Having 2 sons itself is a big challenge in the modern age. So we are talking about previous ages when people lived very long. To increase his dynasty, Puranjana got all of his children married. So gradually the whole city of Panchala became overcrowded with his grandchildren. The city represents Puranjana's body, and his sons and grandsons represent the reaction of his pious and impious actions. Just like when you do a pious action, there is some reaction for the pious action waiting for us. When we do an impious action, there is a reaction for that also waiting for us. So we have to be very careful. Those reactions will come and haunt us. In other words, when a living entity is inclined towards sexual activity, he becomes involved in hundreds and thousands of actions and reactions. So you may have 2 kids and there are hundreds and thousands of kids waiting for you. There are actions and reactions. So as they grew up, the sons and grandsons gradually became plunderers of King Puranjana's wealth and possessions. So in this way, Narada is continuing, my dear King Prachina Barishat, like you, King Puranjana became implicated in so many material desires. So he's giving hint. He's reciting the story of Puranjana and asking him to exit out of this nonsense, materialistic life. Being a Vaishnava, Narada wanted to stop the king's animal killing in the name of performing sacrifices. Finally, while remaining attached to fruitive activities as well as to his family, King Puranjana arrived at the stage of life that's not very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. So if you're overly attached to material things, if I'm overly attached, then we won't like that stage. That stage is called death. Because death means you have to leave all the matter right here. Expensive and cheap, everything has to be left here. I was seeing one king who, he was in Punjab in 1800s. He ordered leather cigar cases, I think, from a company in Britain. Very, very expensive because he was like very much into enjoying life. And he had like 200 concubines. So he had maybe 1 or 2 wives and he had 200 concubines. But he had to die one day. What can you do? So I did not read this story from the Bhagavatam. I read it on the website of that particular company that was doing these cigar cases. Finally, remaining attached to fruitive activities, King Puranjana arrived at that stage. He didn't like it. And then there was an attack by Chandavega. So here are his, hundreds and thousands of sons and grandsons. Here is a picture of how the city can be beautiful, but it can be plundered too. Then Chandavega, Vega means speed, Chandavega. So with great speed, his final days have arrived. This is a different picture of Narada Muni reciting this story or giving this knowledge to King Prachina Barisat. So Chandavega came with a lot of Gandharvas and Gandharvis. So he came with 720 Gandharvas and he started fighting, right? And the five-hooded snake started defending the city, but 720 Gandharvas were too much. So the five-headed snake represents the five senses that we have: sense of sight, taste, smell, and touch. So Narada informed King Prachinda Barisat, once I was coming, he was now reciting his own story about something called a lady. So here are some more Gandharvas. Gandharvas like to sing sweet songs and music. They're supposed to be angels. So they have these angel-like wings. So the angels represented in Christian tradition are nothing but Gandharvas. So now Narada Muni is reciting his own story. Once I was coming to earth from Brahmaloka, Jara happened to meet me. Knowing that I am an avowed brahmachari, she became very lusty and begged me to accept her. But when I refused her request, Jara very angrily cursed me, saying, "You'll never be able to stay in one place for a very long time." So that's why Narada Muni always travels. That at my suggestion, she approached Yavana king Bhaya. Bhaya means fear, and requested him to become her husband. Right? So now Narada Muni is going from Satyaloka to Pataloka. And everywhere from Satyaloka to Pataloka, death is guaranteed. Brahma Bhuvana Loka, Punaravartino Arjuna, Mam Upete tu Kaunteya, Punarjanmana Vidyate, Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. So he basically skillfully redirected this Jara or Kalakanya towards the Yavana king, Bhaya. Bhaya means fear. So Jara then goes to Bhaya and says, "My dear hero, you are the best of the untouchables." Means he's an untouchable person. I am in love with you, and I wanted you to. I want you to accept me as your wife. One who does not give or accept charity according to the injunctions of Shastra is certainly foolish and will have lament later on. So Shastra says that if a woman comes and asks you to marry, you should marry. For the men. So here I am present before you, ready to serve you. Please be merciful and accept me. Right? So the king of Yavana smiled, and after much consideration, he replied, "On behalf of Providence, I will engage you in imperceptibly attacking all people. Here is my elder brother Prajwara, which is the 107 degree Fahrenheit fever. So when people die, they die with Prajwara. So at the time of death, if you touch their body, it will be very hot. Whom you may accept as your husband." So Yavana king also skillfully redirected Jara or Kalakanya to his elder brother Prajwara. So Jara means old age will lead to Prajwara, will lead to fear, will lead to Mrityu, death. Science of death is very important. Science of life is very easy. Science of death is very important because death is a point when you go into the next body or get liberated. So to make the best use of the bad bargain, Yavana king wanted to serve Lord Krishna by introducing Jara or Kalakanya everywhere, so that everybody will grow old and gradually die. We're all dying, actually. Once I was talking to Hanumat Prasad Maharaj. "Maharaj, how are you?" He said, "I am dying, you are dying, we are all dying. Chant Hare Krishna." That was his answer. Very interesting answer, intelligent answer. So therefore, the Yavana Raja Bhaya, or the Lord of Death, Yamaraja, began traveling all over the world with Prajwara, Kalakanya, and his soldiers. So now you can relate to this. These Gandharvas, along with Chandavega, they are all by providence. They are attacking people to kill them. Right? So here is a beautiful building in Myanmar, Burma. So there are various cities with various gates, but ultimately everything has to be destroyed at some point. So now Kalakanya or Jara has contacted Puranjana. Due to being embraced by Kalakanya, King Puranjana gradually lost all of his beauty, intelligence, and opulence, and thus the Gandharvas and Yavanas easily conquered him. While observing how everything in the city was becoming scattered, Puranjana also found his wife, sons, grandsons, servants become cold and indifferent. See, when we are dying, we have to die alone. What can people do? They can maybe shower a couple of words of compassion, but our death is ours uniquely. So they no longer hesitated to oppose him. They were opposing. "Hey, father, why are you saying like this? Just keep quiet. You're complaining too much about your bodily pains." That's what happens to all old men. I've seen that. Not with one case, many cases in my family. This certainly made King Puranjana very anxious, but still he could not counteract the situation, being overwhelmed by Kalakanya or Jara. I was grown very old. Due to our influence, the objects of sense enjoyment became tasteless. So what was once tasty, as we grow old, becomes tasteless. Although Puranjana's lusty desires continued to bind him with affection for his wife and children, in this way King Puranjana became very poor-hearted and completely devoid of real life sane. Once, one of my relatives was dying. I was trying to teach him chant Hare Krishna. He was about to die. And he couldn't do it because all his life he was smoking and he had heavy lung cancer. He couldn't do it. And other people around him were saying, don't disturb him, as if I was disturbing him by teaching him chant Hare Krishna. Next day, I learned he passed away without chanting Hare Krishna. So he'll be born again. Finally, although he had no desire to do so, King Puranjana was forced to leave the city. So, ultimately, the city of 9 gates deserted him. Right? So, he was forced to leave the city. Even a worm in the stool does not want to give its position. Sometimes, if somebody has some worms in the stomach, they pass stool and they take it to the doctor will put it under the microscope. He says, you have too many worms in your stool. We have to, kill them with this medicine. So even the worm in the stool does not want to give a position in living in the stool, right? Same thing with us. Even Brahma doesn't want to leave. Even we don't want to leave. Everybody's wanting to stay in this body, right? Even it becomes old and useless, right? As I started going 50 plus, I'm realizing one after the other pain everywhere, in the ears, in the eyes, in the back, in every of the 9 holes I have pain. And that will only increase, right, as we grow old. And then if we meet Prajwara and then Mrityu, Yamaraja, or Chandavega in this case, what will happen to us? We would have left our body, the city of 9 gates, without purifying our consciousness. So at this time, Prajwara set fire to Puranjana's city to please his younger brother. At the time of death, the temperature is raised to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. When King Puranjana saw how all his family members, servants, citizens were consumed in this fire, he became very morose. The city's police superintendent, the serpent, the 5 senses, also became very aggrieved. So the subtle body and the life air decided to leave. Just like a snake living in the cavity of the tree escapes when there is a forest fire, just like we are seeing in California and in Oregon, the snake runs away. It doesn't stay to be consumed by the fire. Similarly, the soul will leave this body. So King Puranjana was overly attached to his family due to having the false conception of I and mine. And so at the time of separation, he became very sorry. He thought, oh, my poor wife is encumbered by so many children. After I leave this body, who will take care of her? This is common with all the men who stay at home till the last day of their life. Puranjana began thinking of his past dealing with his wife, how she should never eat or bathe until he had done so, how much she was attached to him, how she used to pout when he would sometimes chastise her. These are all the various emotions between man and woman in family life. He thought how she would give good advice, how she became very aggrieved when he was away from home. As a part and parcel of Lord Krishna, Puranjana should have been thinking of Krishna. Instead, he was absorbed in thinking of his wife. And as he lamented over the fate of his wife and children, Yavana Raja or Yamaraja came to arrest him. As the Yavanas were binding Puranjana like an animal to take him away to the place of judgment, Yamaloka, his followers became very aggrieved. And in their state, they were also forced to accompany the master. So, when the Yamadutas take away the living entity, the life air, the senses, desires, and reactions to past activities also follow him. So our man, buddhi, ahankar, all of these go with the soul to Yamaloka and after that into the next body. And all the reactions also follow, believe it or not. So, if we did some bad karma, that will also come with us. I mean, why are we suffering in this life? Due to our past karma. Why will we suffer in our next life? Due to karma we are producing right now. So we have to be very serious. What will happen to us? So as soon as the king and his subjects were out of the city, it immediately became dismantled and smashed to dirt. And even as he was being dragged, away by the Yavana king, due to ignorance, Puranjana could not remember his friend and well-wisher, the Supreme Soul. And all the animals he killed in sacrifice came and pierced him with their horns. Thus it felt to him as if he was being hacked to pieces. So now pay close attention. This is very, very important. So here are various things. Pitru is the right ear. Devahu is the left ear. I was talking about all this earlier. Khadyotya is the right eye. Avirmukhi is the left eye. Mukhya is the mouth. Preshaskara are the hands. Asuri is the reproductive organ. Lubdaka is the anus, which is used to get rid of the bad stuff. Nirvak are the feet. So I included this here. What will happen to a city, San Francisco, looking red like Mars due to the forest fires in the California area? Over 100,000 acres have been burnt already, and the burning hasn't stopped. I can even see ashes on my windowsill. And we are quite far away from Oregon. We are in the state of Washington, but the air is carrying all those ashes of burning. So city of 9 gates will eventually crumble. So pay close attention here. This is the real substance. As the result of having quit his body while remembering his wife, Puranjana took his next birth as the very beautiful daughter of King of Vidarbha. So he took birth as a woman because he was meditating on the body of a woman. So here are some various beautiful city structures in Bali. Some of them are close to ruination. Everything in the material world will get ruined at some point, beautiful or not. So he took birth as the daughter of King of Vidarbha, Vaidarbhi, and then she marries King Malayadwaja of the Pandu country. King Malayadwaja then had 7 sons, and all his 7 sons ran the southern states called Dravida Desha. So at the end of this allegorical tale, Narada Muni explains the philosophy behind instructing King Prachina Barhi on the truths of life. Those who live without a knowledge live the lives of animals. So everybody on this planet is an animal till they become initiated into this knowledge. Janmana jayate shudra. Samskara bhavet vipra. Brahma janati ti brahmana. To understand Brahman or the supreme absolute truth, you have to take the first Diksha, initiation, into Harinam Diksha, and second Diksha, initiation into Brahmana Diksha. Then you will understand Brahman according to scriptures. Those who live life without knowledge live the lives of animals, and they all get some insignificant, illusory, and temporary pleasure. The pain and pleasure in the material world is illusory. That is the key message. So when you buy a good car, you get some pleasure. That's illusory. You fall down on the road and you get hurt. You get some pain. That's also illusory, because they're all happening at the sensory level, not at the soul level. So the living entities, we, Puranjana, go from body to body according to our own past activities. But we are not alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not abandon us and is present in our heart as the Paramatma who constantly helps us. When we take shelter of material intelligence, pramada, which literally means madness. Mada means madness, pramada means excessive madness. He identifies himself with material body. So all the crazy people think that they are the body. All the intelligent people think they are the soul to be purified and go back to the spiritual world. So we are all crazy people, pramada people. And then enjoys and suffers the life of sense gratification. So senses will tell you, oh, this is good, enjoy, enjoy. Oh, this is bad, now suffer. But actually there is no enjoyment or suffering. It's all illusory. There's only one thing, the soul and the super soul. The senses are considered his girlfriends with whom he enjoys or suffers. Everything seems wonderful, but when old age Kalakanyas arrives, life does not seem so wonderful anymore. Death comes and Puranjana, we the living soul, has to take another body and another body and another body until a pure devotee comes to wake us up. That pure devotee is Srila Prabhupada, because there's so many Hindu saints, but nobody is trying to wake you up. They're all trying to put band-aids on the material life. They're saying, oh, in the material life, if you do this puja, you'll get a good wife. In this material life, if you worship Durga Devi, you'll get a good husband. If you do this, you'll get money. If you do this, you'll get that. Only a pure devotee can wake us up. Means saying that you have to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Right? Why? Because Prabhupada is in that parampara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has taken avatar to wake us up. Jeev jago, Gora Chand bole, Kota nidra jao maya, Pisachi rakhole. We are sleeping in the lap of a Pisachi. He's saying Jeev jago, means wake up, oh Jiva, wake up, wake up. But even after we hear this for many, many times, I've heard this song at least 1,000 times. So we have to wake up. And if not, next life again we'll be hearing the same thing. So there are recycling bodies, male to female, female to male, animal to human, human to animal. There's a painting by William Blake where he's showing all these bodies go into this endless cycle. And again, they take birth. And the soul is dragged out of the body. And then this soul is crying out helplessly, help, help. But these people are all doing their duty. Because of whatever things we did, here if we have eaten animals, these ruru animals will come and pierce our flesh. Right? Or these various snake-like animals will come and trouble us upon death. So here is Puranjana, who became Vaidarbhi. She's praying to the saint here to get relief from her body now. Because the man became a woman, because he was meditating on the bodily beauty of a woman. Actually, I was listening to a lecture in Pune when one of the Swamijis was telling that for a woman, she should meditate on the body of her husband while dying so that she can get a male body and continue our journey for liberation. A man should never meditate on his wife at the time of death. He should meditate on Krishna. Of course, if the woman is smart enough to meditate directly on Krishna, she doesn't even need to take birth again either. But many women may not take up to this devotion to the level required. So at least the injunction is they should meditate on body of their husband so that they can get a male body. But for a man, no. So he said very clearly, एक पुरुष के लिए पत्नी के बारे में सोचना बहुत बुरी बात है मरते समय, लेकिन एक स्त्री को अपने पति के बारे में सोचना बहुत आवश्यक है मरते समय. Otherwise, you'll all become women. So today's women may be men from the last life, who knows? And today's men may be becoming women in the next life if they get too much lusty thoughts during the time of death and think of their women or wife or girlfriend or whatever, right? These days, genders, there is same sex and this and that, so much nonsense going on. So where they'll end up, who knows? So at time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti, we should think of Narayana or Vishnu or Krishna. Best is to think of Krishna. So Puranjana becomes a woman, Vaidarbhi, and marries King Malayadwaja. So this is the key message. Sexual attraction is the root of all evil, and it prevents us from reaching the higher goals. Most of us are stuck in the lower rungs of this staircase: envy, ignorance, anger, false prestige, pride, attachment. Then we come to this point: spiritual master, study of Veda, austerity. We are practicing. Why are we fasting on Janmashtami day? We are practicing for time of death. Why are we practicing on Ekadasi? We are practicing for time of death. Like Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he's not used to eat for a month. Austerity. He said, no, I'm not going to eat. Once in a while, he would have like a glass of buttermilk, half a glass of buttermilk, like that. And there are some people, like now, Chaturmasya is coming. Now Purushottam Masa is coming, and after that there is Chaturmasya, right? So some people fast. They fast the whole month. Kartik Masa, they fast the whole month. I know one person in ISKCON who fasts the whole month with Ekadasi. Some fast whole month with Ekadasi one time a day. Some eat every other day, alternate day. Why? Preparing for time of death. Simple. But if we do the other way, thinking still of sexual relationships and family at the time of death, then we will not go to the destination. That's why in the scriptures it is said that towards after the age of 50 roughly, wife and husband should leave the kids. I hopefully they are married already by then, and then go to the forest and meditate, or do tirtha yatra, go from temple to temple. And after some point, wife and husband should, wife should return back to the home, live with the son, and husband should roam the various tirthasthans so that he can get liberated. And then the wife's liberation is as meditating on Krishna, being in one place, because for them roaming is not so easy. Some people may think it is, but it's not so easy. So here is a little scientific graph of Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Dravya Shakti. So here you see man and women looking at each other, they get attracted, they fall in love, they engage in passionate sexual activity, then they start fighting with each other, and then finally they go to hell. So this is one other statement. Everything happening within time, which consists of past, present, and future, is merely a dream. That is the secret understanding in all Vedic literature. So we are living in a dream basically, because our pain is a dream, our pleasure is a dream. There is no question of past, present, or future. Persons who are addicted to karma kanda vichara means working for future happiness. We are all working for some future happiness, which will never happen, or also dreaming. Like when I came to America, I thought that, yeah, I've come to the land of gold. I'll be so happy. But then you have to work very hard. Green card, citizenship, buying a house, paying for the house. By the time you do all this, there's no more energy left in the body. So we're all planning for the future which doesn't exist. Similarly, past happiness and present happiness are merely dreams. The actual reality is Krishna and service to Krishna, which can save us from the clutches of Maya. For the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Mam evaya prapadyante, mayam etam tarantite. Those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond my illusory energy. Ultimately, it all comes to this: surrender, surrender, surrender. Mam evaya prapadyante, prapannam. Or sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Sharanam is also one degree of surrender. Prapannam is one degree of surrender. And then final surrender is Manasa deho geho jo kichu mor arpitu tuvapade nanda kishore. Manasa, mind, deho, body, geho, all my thoughts, jo kichu mor, whatever I have, mind, body, my every existence. Arpilu tuvapade, I am surrendering them to your feet. Tuvapade, pade means legs. Nanda Kishore. So we have to come to that platform. We have a long way to go, but we should try. So everything happening within time consists of past, present, and future is merely a dream. That is the secret understanding in all Vedic literature. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, I was just saying that the thing about everything is just a dream, that seems appropriate because I mean, nothing is forever, right? So we are running non-stop without knowing why we are running, where we are running, for what purpose. Jivatma, I mean, we don't really get satisfied with anything, first thing. So like that, that makes perfect sense
Yeah,
when
that's
we think
exactly
about
Narada's
it.
first instruction to Prachina Barisat. Souls are running, but for what they don't know. And George Harrison also said, everybody is seeking Krishna, but they don't know who they are seeking. So they are seeking that in love, they are seeking that in marriage, in nationalism, in philanthropy, in music, in dance. They don't know. But now that we know, we should gradually put an end. I know it's not possible all of a sudden, and turn our attention to the lotus feet of Mukunda. Mukunda means giver of liberation. Nobody else can give liberation other than Krishna. So that is why it's important to worship Krishna. Other people are not even capable, right? Other devatas or babas or this or that. Why do you worship them? Waste of time. Mukunda can give liberation. We should be very strategic. Go to the person who can do something. Why go to somebody who cannot do anything?
Correct.
Uh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Disha. I have a question. Um, in the beginning, you said that there are five karma senses and then there are five dhyana senses.
Right.
So, what are the five dhyan senses?
Five jnana senses are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch. Five karma senses, the power of speech, hands, legs, genitals, anus. Those are the five karma senses because you perform action with them, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Karmendriya and Gyanendriya.
so okay, gyan means that is knowledge.
Knowledge acquiring. You acquire knowledge through these five. Like, how do you know a vessel in kitchen is hot? Like recently, I burned my hand. In the kitchen, I went and touched the vessel. Immediately, it burned my hand because it was hot. So, how do you know? By sense of touch.
Yes.
So
Okay.
what are you seeing on the screen? You see that through the sense of sight, like that.
Right.
You're hearing my voice.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Other comments, thoughts?
Yeah, for me also it is considered it's a dream. It's very hard to accept because it is a reality. If you take birth, it is part of being happy, part of being sad because of our actions. How can it be dream? Dream is something is not real
Yeah,
when you are
that is
unconscious,
why
but
you
we
are
are
in my.
conscious right now,
Yeah,
right?
you think everything.
You think you are
Everything
conscious, that is the truth. It's
And
not
you
that's
are
the
real.
life.
I mean, have
true.
you seen the movie Matrix?
Yes.
Yeah, many times I feel like we are all pawns in somebody's game, which is Lord. Nothing is in your control. You may think that you are in control, but you're not. You try. I'm not saying you should not try because that is the total opposite. That also is not what you're supposed to do. But yeah, uh, at least that's how I feel.
Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam is very strict. It says you can try, but it's a waste of time. So try for something that will take you out of this dream, which is chant the Hare Krishna mantra, listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, associate with saintly people, which is what you're doing by associating with Srila Prabhupada's translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. narrated by Srila Sukadeva Goswami 5,000 years ago. Give up bad things, give up unnecessary things. Anything that is not in this category is unnecessary. Even talking to your relative is unnecessary. Unless, of course, you are preaching to them indirectly and teaching them how to not waste their time. Right? So time is very precious. Let's use the time for meditating on Krishna, lotus feet of Krishna, which in itself will destroy all the sins that we have accumulated for millions of lifetimes. And then there will come a time when you can meditate on the Rasa Leela, which is on the top left-hand corner of your screen. But you have to be serious. If you're not serious, and if you start suspecting this, if you think that this is reality, then you are on the sensory platform. It's only you're like Radha Mataji was saying, right? So you are still on the sensory platform. If everything around you appears real, what is real? What Krishna wants you to do is real. So that is in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so many texts, hundreds literally. So we have to come out of the sensory platform. Animals are on the sensory platform, right? If it is hot outside, animal will come indoors. But because it's thinking through senses. But you should think through something higher, through intelligence. And intelligence says that you are wasting your time here. So our intelligence should be purified by scriptures, and our senses should be controlled by the mind, which is controlled by intelligence. That is what this analogy of the 5 horses, the reins and the chariot driver is from the Katha Upanishad and from Srimad Bhagavatam and from so many other locations. Scriptures don't contradict each other. Only human beings contradict each other. Scriptures always tell the same thing.
Prabhu, in the last class, you said something which was very appropriate over here also, like in the soul is such a tiny, tiny, tiny soul, but then the I in the soul becomes the entire life that gets wasted behind it.
Yeah,
And
so change that I to Krishna. Okay, soul is a servant of Krishna, is what I covered in that presentation on the soul. Ultimately, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. So think of
exactly.
yourself as servant of Krishna and serve him, and other things will magically, mystically happen.
Yeah, so when you see our existence, and like, you know, that appropriately fits in over here as a dream, because the I is immaterial when you look into the bigger picture, and the I disappears because the I is living in a dream, and the soul is this dream, which is not the reality, and the reality is you know, Lord, and going back to God.
Yeah, but it will take an entire lifetime, believe it or not, to come to that factual conclusion. So initially you theoretically believe it. Later on, it'll dawn on you that, oh my God, I have to be serious. Any other thoughts, Jayapal?
Yes, Prabhuji. I mean, no comments, Prabhuji.